Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. I'll talk a few minutes about Ecoclime. We are, at present, actually a 10-year-old company. We are involved entirely in cost-efficient energy recycling, and we call ourselves from start to scale up. And what we're looking at is recapturing and saving energies in buildings on several, well, actually in almost different levels. But I will focus on circular energy and what we are doing there and our core product, which is recovery of energy from wastewater, which is also a part of clean tech. And what I would like to try to show you is how you save energy or save or recapture energy in a building, in a multi-housing, multi-family building. And what this pie chart is trying to show you is that a lot of effort can be done by changing windows, new windows. You can have roof insulation. You can have ventilation heat recovery. It's called FTX systems or Luftvärme in Swedish. And then you can finally have extraction of heat or recovery of heat from wastewater. And this is something new. This hasn't been done in any industrial scale yet until we arrived. And the interesting is, if you compare it to the last slide, and that is that to recover heat or energy from warm water, this goes exactly as well in new buildings as in old buildings. The only difference is that in new buildings, it's actually a much larger part of the total energy consumption than it is in an old building. Because in an old building, you don't have the same installation, you maybe don't have any FTX systems, your windows are old, etc., etc. But in a new building, you have taken care of all those things, except one, and that is recovery of warm water. And this diagram is supposed to show you, depending on where, at what time the buildings were built and created, and on how much energy there is still to save. And if we look here at 1961 to 1975, that was when we had the so-called miljonprogrammet in Swedish, where there was built 1 million new flats in Sweden. And for example, in those buildings, there are lots to save both from new windows, roof installations, ventilation of heat and so on, heat recovery, and of course wastewater heat recovery. The interesting thing is though that when you come to 2006 until present, you see that most of these things are taken care of in a new built multi-family housing, except recovery of heat from wastewater. That's the only thing the main only thing that is left to save in a building. But the thing is, it's very tricky to extract the energy from wastewater, because you have what we call variable flows, i.e. you take a shower in the morning, the dishwasher, washing machine and so on, you sleep at night. In order to recover heat from water, you need the water to be stable. You can't have it flowing a few hours per day and then not flowing at all. So you have to take care of that problem. The other thing you have to take care of, that sewage water from a house, it can contain just about everything. I mean, from detergents to well, I'm not going to dwell into it, but you know. And for that you need very special materials that can handle all all that pollution, dirt, filth, and so on. And the third thing you need is that once you recover, you eventually manage to recover the heat from the wastewater, you need to put it back in use. And that's why the market is not overwhelmed with recovery of heat from wastewater, because as far as we see, we are the first ones who can do this on a bigger scale. And the beginning of this is our patented heat exchanger. Huh? It doesn't look very much, anyway, but I can assure you it took some 17,000 tests before it actually worked. It's of a polymeric special material. This material must not only stand for all the filth and dirt that you have in the heat water, it must also resist that the dirt sticks to it. So it's really designed for harsh condition. And then it's very, very efficient. So this is patented for the next several years. And what we do is that we take these heat exchangers and we put them in this energy collector. And then we put it all down into a huge tank full of wastewater. And then the magic begins. It looks like this. I'm trying to make sense. I don't know if I succeed, but I do my very best. First, you have number one. You have the pump pit. So the wastewater comes from the flat, goes into the pump pit. There we pump the wastewater up to a buffer tank, because sometimes you take a shower, sometimes you don't. So you need a buffer tank. Then from that buffer tank, you put the water into what we call the collector tank. And here is where we extract the heat. So on average, sewage wastewater from a house has a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. That's average. What we do is we decrease the temperature here from 25 degrees to 7 degrees via the heat exchanger. And then the 7-degree wastewater, it goes out here and then down to the sewage plant somewhere. And the heated water, it goes in here in a, I would say, almost a traditional heat pump. And that's where, so to speak, you get a turbo effect, where you put already warm water into a heat pump. And there you expand it by the factor of 3, 4, or 5. And then from there, you pump the water to the heating, to the warm water tank, and then it's getting reused again. So this is almost, not entirely, but it's almost a circular system. And if you ask, well, how much of the energy in the wastewater do you actually, are you able to capture? The answer is 90%. Sorry, it's 90%. So what we, and if you begin to talk about mathematics, so what does this 90% mean in a multifamily housing? Well, it translates to those of you who knows a little bit about buildings. That is a saving of equivalent 25 kilowatt hours per square meter and year. And for example, if you live in a newly built house, multifamily house here in Stockholm area, for example, those 25 kilowatt hour per square meter per year is about half of your bill for the district heating, or fjärrvärme as it's called in Swedish. So it's a large amount of saving, and that's where the money is. So for us, we were established in 2013, our founder, and we have slowly but safely been building the company since then, and had last year a turnover of close to 250 million, and we expect to grow a little bit more or significantly more this year. Our adjusted results as measured by EBITDA, 2022 was a kind of a disappointing year. It was several factors, but there were several cost and investments of more, well, non-occurring nature, which we don't see coming here in 2023, and we still see a pretty fast growth organically. So when we look at 2023, we used the word of mastered optimism. I don't know if it's the prudent in Swedish, I would say behärskad optimism, but mastered optimism, because as you can read here, we see 2023 really as it's a challenging year, no doubt about it, and especially in construction and new housing, it's been falling quite rapidly since last summer. Also, the rising interest level have left no one unnoticed, especially not the last few days. And those, of course, increase investment costs. But what we see on the other hand is that, well, we have significantly higher energy prices and what we thought for just a couple of years ago. So, and when we measure these both positives and negative, it comes out reasonably okay. And so far this year, we discussed this as late as the other day. We were looking at, well, what's the outlook for this year? Things do look kind of gloomy if you read Dagens Industri or Financial Times or whatever. But from our point of view, so far so good this year, and we are very convinced that our growth in turnover will be in the high double-digit figures this year, as most of our business parts, they are growing. And that's of course because we do see this increased interest and need from clients who not only want to make money on saving energy, but they also want to really reduce their CO2 emissions. So this we see will make our road ahead with continued high turnover, and we are just in the step of establishing sales in Germany, which is a country that is kind of similar to Sweden, albeit it's much larger, but with their energy situation, their heating problems with natural gas and so on, we see that, well, that's a new market for us. And we are hoping and expecting to have a first orders and eventual deliveries before the year end. So with this, I say thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Per. This is obviously a huge market, but what competitors do you have in this field?
Actually, we have no direct competitors when it comes to extracting heat from sewage, because there are no other systems. So the actual competition would be from either energy recovering or heat recovering, like FTX, air recovering from air, or sunshine panels or something like that. But to extract heat from wastewater, no. So far, no one.
That's good news for you, of course, for the investors too. So when you look at at retrofitting, because we do have lots and lots of buildings that need to be renovated, not to mention the ones that you mentioned before, the ones that were constructed in the 60s and the 70s in Sweden. We have them all over Europe, and they need to be retrofitted. How costly or efficient? I mean, is that a big market for you retrofitting versus the market of new construction, building? Because these tanks they're not tiny.
No, they are not that tiny. So they are, I would say that of course, it's easier in new production,
course, yes.
because then you design for it and it's a little bit cheaper. But it works quite well in older buildings as well. Not in all buildings, but in surprisingly many. Absolutely. So you either store this in your basement, and you need a room of 35 square meters with 2.5 meters height. That's more or less all. Because the beautiful thing is that almost all sewage in a house, it comes from all kinds of appliances, all kinds of flats, but it ends up in one pipe. And you got to find that pipe, and there you access the wastewater from there.
It's a fascinating technique, and will be exciting to follow the progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.